Hello, folks. Welcome to Kudlow. I'm Larry Kudlow. I apologize in advance tonight, but I just have to put up one more riff on Joe Biden versus fossil fuels. I just can't help myself. I promise to search for another topic tomorrow and the rest of the week. That is, assuming he doesn't come out with any more crazy stuff like calling America's oil companies war profiteers and threatening them with a windfall profits tax. And by the way, Mr. Biden and his crew, as a general matter, don't like profits. Remember, from day one, Biden and company have wanted to reverse Donald Trump's highly successful corporate tax cut, which boosted blue-collar workers and lower-income folks, reduced poverty, reduced inequality, generated record-low minority unemployment. Big government socialists don't like profits. In fact, they don't like business either. Let's be straight about this whole story. But the attack on oil companies on the eve of an election where the Biden Democrats are likely to get shellacked is, well, it's kind of close to a new low. It sure is hot air, like he's really doing something about explosive energy prices, which, as we've said any number of times, filter through the entire economy. Refined petroleum products permeate every nook and cranny of everyday life in America. So when you put the handcuffs on petroleum production, you curtail supply and you raise prices. That is, you raise prices everywhere. Now, I'm going to spare you. I'm not going to go through the whole list again, but let me just say it covers everything from phones and clothes and fertilizer to diapers and MRIs and stethoscopes and hearing aids and tennis rackets and golf balls and insect repellent. There. I really tried to save time and truncate the list tonight. But seriously, refined petroleum and petrochemicals do indeed affect every part of everyday life. And from day one, Mr. Biden has stopped drilling permits, nixed pipelines, opposed new refineries, and repeatedly said he's going to end fossil fuels. So now, for him to threaten oil and gas companies with a windfall profits tax, question their patriotism, and accuse them of not investing in producing enough, well, it redefines the word hypocrisy. We know Mr. Biden is incapable of telling the truth about the economy. Well, let's check this petroleum box, too. He is incapable of telling the truth about his own policies. That's how bad this is. And by the way, as a footnote, Richard Nixon and Jimmy Carter slapped windfall profits taxes on oil back in the 1970s. And guess what happened? Production went down, prices went up. We played right into the hands of Saudi OPEC. It was Reagan who ended the windfall profits tax and decontrolled oil prices, which took oil from $40 a barrel down to $10 a barrel. Producers invested more, consumers benefited from more plentiful oil at lower prices, and at least temporarily, we stopped OPEC's power back in those days. Now, on the eve of the elections, Mr. Biden's hot air is an attempt to distract Americans from the fact that gasoline and all sources of related power have skyrocketed during his administration. Because energy companies actually listened carefully to Mr. Biden's repeated pledges to end fossil fuels, and of course watched carefully as Democrats mainlined a couple of $1 trillion worth of renewable tax subsidies, they have carefully hoarded their capital, went slow on production, and instead rewarded shareholders who stuck with them. This is while Biden and company and their ESG policies repeatedly told folks not to invest in fossil fuel companies. Think of this. On any given day, over half the federal government spends its time attacking fossil companies. The SEC, the FTC, Justice Department, Energy, Interior, EPA, and of course the White House, putting forward overly restrictive regulations, even when, as in the case of the SEC and the FTC and the Federal Reserve, they have no energy or climate or environmental experts whatsoever. Think of the Federal Reserve bringing in ESG people, plus the control of the currency, and telling markets not to invest in oil companies. Think of that. The Bidens are in favor of onshoring supply chains in every area except oil and gas. And along the way, they insult the Saudis, play footsie with the Iranians, and smooch with the Venezuelans. This is brilliant, yes? No. It's incredibly incoherent. It has generated enormous damage to both our economic and national security, and frankly, it is just plain stupid. Finally, I'm going to bet that the EPA and the other agencies are working overtime to avoid the recent Supreme Court decision of West Virginia versus the EPA, which says Congress did not provide the authority for federal agencies to cap carbon emissions on power suppliers or to regulate carbon emissions in general. The Clean Air Act did not go that far. Indeed, the point of the Supreme Court decision suggested that these unelected executive regulators do not have the authority to promulgate regs with, quote, vast economic and political significance, end quote. So all these ESGs proliferating in federal agencies are ignoring the Supremes. Mr. Biden, on the other hand, is ignoring economic and common sense. I'm not sure which is worse, but they're both bad. This whole energy story is bad. But there is a solution. Just unleash oil and gas production, which will favorably permeate every nook and cranny of American everyday life with more supplies at lower prices. It will generate lower inflation with stronger economic growth. Let's not make this any harder than it needs to be. Thank heavens, the cavalry's coming in 7 days. Oh my gosh. And that's my riff.